I've been listening to everything you said. It's been running through my head, locked and loaded. I got the feeling that you know it. Yeah, I've only just begun. I won't stop until it's done, till you're broken. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. I've been waiting for this moment, the final battle of the chosen. See, I'm never gonna quit, got my legacy set in motion. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. Welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. 'Cause the bigger they are, the harder they fall. You build your fortress and I'll climb your walls. You got your armor, but I see your flaws. So welcome to the fire. I'm the one with the lighter. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. So welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire. Feel it burning through your veins as we're walking through the flames, getting higher. Bigger they are, harder they fall.
And the spirit of David and the cracks of the walls and the schemes that we're all running. We're exposed to the rain coming down from the clouds and the fire that falls from heaven. But our tragedy binds while our ignorance hides. We all wind up here together. Yeah, our bodies are tired and our souls, they're blind, bones broken by the weather.
Got a lot of bad days still coming our way, but it's sweet ever after. When their waves breaking over our walls, but the shield it don't shatter. The real life lesson about a life well lived is you lose what don't matter. But the sun's coming up on the stairway to heaven, and it's sweet ever after. And it's sweet ever after. Woke up terrified in the middle of the night to a storm, our whole house was shaking. Didn't know where to hide, the wind howling outside sounded like everything was breaking. Well, our tears fell like rain when the morning light came in the wake of that disaster. Brick and stone in the street, shattered glass in our feet, home splintered by the weather. Got a lot of bad days still coming our way, but it's sweet ever after. When their waves breaking over our walls, but the shield We're connected like waves of grain. When we break wide open, we're all the same. When we break open, we're all the same. Got a lot of bad days still coming our way, but it's sweet ever after. Wind and waves breaking over our walls, but the shield don't shatter. Got a real life lesson about a life where the wind is you lose, but don't matter. But the sun's coming up on the stairway to heaven, and it's sweet ever after. And it's sweet ever after. Sweet ever after. Sweet ever after.
Yeah, what if it was just like a...
I ain't no altar boy. I ain't no yes man. No, no. You ain't no God of mine. No, I don't need your blessings to save me. When you thought that I was done, you ain't seen nothing yet. Walk that wire, start that fire, burn it down, yeah. You ain't seen nothing yet. I go harder, let the sun burn, feel me now. You ain't seen nothing yet. I got this storm in my head, a forest fire in my chest. Look at the time on the clock, man, I'm gonna sleep when I'm dead. Whether you're ready or not, I'm rolling in like a train off the tracks, coming at you. You ain't seen nothing yet. Walk that wire, start that fire, burn it down, yeah. You ain't seen nothing yet. I go harder, let the sun feel me now. You ain't seen nothing yet. My heart, my soul, my fight, my appetite won't stop, won't quit. I come back every time. My heart, my soul, my fight, my appetite won't stop, won't quit. I come back every time. My heart, my soul, my fight, my appetite won't stop, won't quit. I come back every time. You ain't seen nothing yet. Walk that wire, start that fire, burn it down. Oh yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet. I go harder, let the sun feel me now, feel me now. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yo! What's up, everyone? Happy New Year! And we
Happy
are
New Year.
back. We are back. Live stream is here. Marco, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, as always.
Yeah, hope you had a good New Year.
Yes, New Year, end of New Year,
it's a New
especially.
Year.
Been in London a few days. Nice weather.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yep.
Always good. Yeah, we had a good holiday break. Did some short traveling just to get away for a few days, and so that was nice.
Yep.
Spent time with the horse in the barn, or at least the wife and my wife and daughter
I
did.
see-
Chatmaster C and the
I-
daughter did.
I see your body language is saying, I finally am back at work. Ah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, or Tuesday was Monday was a company holiday from a Microsoft perspective.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Tuesday was the first real day back, and it was like,
Yeah.
digging through the emails, getting back in the swing of things. It's all there.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
All right. So, welcome everyone. Hope everyone else had a great new year. I'm sure there are probably some new faces out there. We've been seeing a lot of new subscribers to GuineCube. So, welcome everyone that is new. If you're new to the live stream or GuineCube in general, put hashtag new in the chat. We always love seeing who's new here and say welcome to them. Also, Fernando, member for 22 months. Thank you for your continued support. Love it. And then Joe, coming back as a member. Thank you so much. At least I think you're rejoining. I think you were a member before, but good to see you as always. So yeah, get hashtag new in the chat if you are new here. Love seeing that. Also, shout out. I've been some of the members have been there, so just thank you for your continued support. As a member of GuineCube, you help us do what we do here, so love doing that. Christian, Happy New Year to you as well. 29 months being a member. Love it, love it. Yeah, if you want to learn more about being a member, check out the link on the screen or at the join button down below. No commitment required, just thanks for checking it out, and very much appreciate the support. If you see folks with the green name or the GuineCube logo next to their name, those are the members of GuineCube, so thank you so much. Members, hold your questions until Chatmaster C gives you the green light at the second half. We will have our member-only chat at the end, or at the second half. Pa Beater coming in 19 months as a member. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Love it. With that, questions. Get your questions in the queue. Q colon in front of the question. One time is all you need. Chatmaster C is standing by to get it in the queue, and we will get through as many as we can. If we don't get through all the questions, that's okay. Come back next time. We'll try it again. Also, please do not repeat your question. One time is all you need. It will get in the queue. We have a 3 strikes rule here on GuineCube. 3 strikes, and you will get put in a timeout by either Chatmaster C or one of our lovely moderators. I usually say except for Patrick, but he's not here. But also probably not Marco either. So please do not spam your question. One time's all you need. Awesome. Chris Jones coming in at 16 months, and then Wyatt coming in at 32 months. Happy New Year to both of you. Thank you for your continued support. Love it. Love it. All right. I think I got everything. What am I missing here? What am I missing? I think that's everything. We're good to go.
Yeah.
All right, Marco. Are you ready for the questions?
Of course.
All right. And so just for everyone to know also, we're going to be prioritizing anything like DAX, performance, modeling, those types of questions. DAX Studio is awesome to see. Tabular Editor, anything like that relating to modeling, that's what we will prioritize for this stream.
Because I don't know anything else. I mean, anything else about these topics? My answer is I don't know.
If you want to deep dive into the Deneb custom visual, Marco's your person. Like he will help you out.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No,
I would like though. I like the idea, the concept. I just don't have time to go deeper on those.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Matthias. Yes. Oh, sorry. The news. The new folks around. Yes. Thank you. I knew I was missing something. Let's go. Let's see who's new. Durat is new. Banu is new. Thomas new oldie. Suna is new and also a new member. Thank you for becoming a member. Welcome. Let's see here. Paula is new. Kabiri is new. That is all I'm seeing. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. Always happy to have folks here. And hopefully you learned something. All right, cool. Let's get into this, Marco. Let's see here. Sandeep's got a 2-parter. So let's go with that. So first part is when importing from another data set using analysis services connector, it converts measures into implicit measures. Can you please explain how it computes values for these? And then the second part is any way to ensure that they are not converted to implicit measures. What are your thoughts on that, Marco?
So, okay, so let me rephrase the question. So, if you connect, in this case, Power Query, to analysis services and you import the data, what you get is not a copy of the model. You get a copy of the data extracted from analysis services, creating a new model, which usually has a single table for the entire cube, because you see a cube which is the composition of the fact tables and the dimensions around. So basically, if you have a tabular model on the other side in analysis services, every measure you have defines a star schema, or I mean, the set of measures that are included in a table defines a star schema that, from the point of view of the client, Power Query, is like a single fact table that includes the columns of the fact table plus all the columns of all the dimensions, the tables that have a many-to-one relationship, plus all the measures. Now, the measures you see provide a result of that measure at the cardinality that you use to extract the data, which is the right thing to do, but you don't have to expect that that measure also keeps the property. So what you see is an implicit measure, because what happens is that you imported a column that has numbers. And from the point of view of Power BI, it's just a column with numbers. So if you want to implement a logic, you have to do something else. Now, if you want to get the model, the remote model on analysis services, you need to use composite models. But in order to use composite models, you have to use analysis services on Azure or SQL Server Analysis Services 2022, which is compatible with the composite models. If you have an older version of analysis services, unfortunately, they don't support composite models.
Yep, excellent. Yeah, the minute said from an importing from a data set, I'm like, oh no, like don't do that. I guess I would say, like, what are your thoughts, Marco, on like my general reaction to that is don't do that. Like, don't do that.
Now that we have the composite model, yes, but if I have data that I can easily extract from analysis services and I want to rebuild the same business logic, maybe at a different granularity, because, for example, I want to extract the same data by date, so by day, by product, but not by customer. And this way might be that the size of the model is relatively small. At that point, I would like to get the same metrics, so the same measures, and technically this can be done. I asked the team to do this many years ago, because technically Power Query could do that. Or the alternative is to import table by table all the tables and regenerate the DAX code. And again, this is technically possible by using Tom and C# and other things. We just don't have a tool that does this. And to be honest, now that we have the composite model, I don't know how important is this in order to justify the development of a tool to do this. Technically, it can be done. Just that, does it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll also add, if you do have premium, which I would probably guess that the majority of people watching this stream do not. But if you did have premium, you could potentially just republish the model to Power BI directly through XMLA endpoint, and then get it that way. So that's an option as well.
Yes, but yeah.
If you were actually migrating, and also the migration features are there as well. Yeah.
If you migrate, yes, but if there is a reason why, I mean, if you still have analysis services, it's much easier to migrate to potentially to Azure Analysis. I mean, it was possible until, since many years ago. So if you still have on-premises, and to be honest, as of today, having a database on-premises is probably more expensive than having that on the cloud. unless you already paid for everything. So you say, okay, I'm just using like an old car. Oh, I just paid that, and so it's less expensive. And it goes broke somewhere, yes, of course.
Yep.
But the maintenance, it could become much more expensive. And I think for on-premises it's the same.
Yep.
So.
I'll also add, just because you can do like a migration doesn't mean you should. Like if it's working and it's not impacting business at all, then why do it? All right. Cool. All right. Evan's going to come in. I know you responded a little bit in the chat on this, but we'll get it for the stream. Marco, what are your thoughts on using ChatGPT AI to write DAX code?
So, believe it or not, I mean, I continue to receive the question. So, I have two positions here. Not two positions. I had two messages, two answers. The first one is that every time I see people overexcited about ChatGPT, my position is look at what it is really doing, because you are projecting your expectation over the actual capabilities. Okay, so you don't understand that you cannot do a number of things. Okay, so just because you see something new and you say, oh, now I can do this, is the same reaction. Oh, we had Alexa or Siri, we wanted to do, like having a personal assistant. It is just a clock, right? Clock, give me the weather, give me the time, this is what we do, set a timer. These are the more common applications for those tools today. And when they went out in the market, people say, oh, now I will do everything. I will book my flight, my holiday. No way, it doesn't work. The new things we have for ChatGPT is that we have a much more advanced system today. And I'm extremely surprised by the advancement we have seen in generative AI, not just ChatGPT. Just look at the Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, and all the other generative images we have. It's amazing. It's amazing what the speed of improvement we have there. Okay, it's amazing.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have to understand that there is a concrete possibility that the speed we see today will not continue. I mean, it could continue, but in contexts that are not what we would like. Okay, so there could be areas and fields where this is extremely useful, others in which it is not. An example, many developers, people who write code in Java, C++, C#, JavaScript, TypeScript, they are excited by GitHub Copilot because it is very, very useful. However, you don't see the same results for DAX or other languages. And there are technical explanations for that. The presence of good examples or the lack of good examples, the fact that the language does not include everything. DAX relies on the data model, and when you write DAX, you don't see the data model, so you have no idea about what is the meaning of what you read if you don't have the data model. So there are a number of things that create limitations in what you can do. One of the issues that these systems don't provide you an information about the reliability of the suggestion they provide you. It's like having someone that says, oh, where should I go, on the left or on the right? And I tell you, oh, on the left, by 51% probability. If you know the probability, you say, wait a minute, you are not sure, right? So maybe that I have to consider other things, or I have to clarify my question better. So this lack of information about the confidence about an answer is potentially dangerous. So if you know what you're doing and you use it just as an assistant to fill up the code, and then you are able to review the code, this is one thing, and it is working well for GitHub Copilot, for example, but for other things it is not. And so, recap, I'm very excited about these technologies, but don't just project your expectations on these technologies if you don't understand what their limits are and how they work internally.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I was playing. I showed while you were talking. I showed some examples of some things that I was just playing around with it. So some of the folks were asking, like, is this a Microsoft thing? Now, ChatGPT is part of OpenAI, so it's a consortium with different companies and whatnot participating. So it's something you can go play with today, and so. What?
Microsoft has an investment.
No, I know. There was an article that they're
Yeah.
working on it with Bing and whatnot, about potentially integrating it with Bing and other things, and so I'm sure like even.
By the way, they use Azure. They use Azure, Windows Azure. It is hosted on Windows Azure. This is not other cloud providers. Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's technically it's open AI, so it's not it's like an open thing that they're working on. So this is also where the GPT-3 came out of OpenAI as well. So there's a lot of just AI stuff coming out of that. But I will say playing around with ChatGPT was kind of crazy. Like the responses it was giving, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's bananas.
Yes, it's absolutely interesting.
When so one of the examples I put up there, I was just like, oh, explain like bidirectional relationships in Power BI, and it went through and talked about. I'm like, it was technically correct in what it said, but I'm like, okay, there's a lot of nuances there though that you're completely leaving out, and you're just saying, oh, just go do this, and I'm like, whoa. So yeah, to your point, you got to verify.
You have to understand what they do. Yeah. I think, for example, one thing you should try to provide a text and to ask for a summary of the text.
Yeah.
To me, that is the most amazing feature I have seen. Because if you look, when you interact, you basically rely on the knowledge that has been extracted 2 years ago from, internet searches. And which means that the engine doesn't know whether an article or a blog post or a message in a chat room or something was correct or not. Yep. That's the reason why you see completely big mistakes. And when you say, oh, this is wrong, then it tries to fix it by finding the other.
Marco.
Yeah.
You're saying the internet could be wrong?
When the answer provided by GPT-3 is wrong, it's because let's say incorrect. I don't know. When I receive the editorial review of articles we do, you cannot say wrong. You have to say incorrect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as I like one of the phrases, garbage in, garbage out, and so it's just picking up what's out there, and it's not
master slave. Master slave architecture. And now we cannot say this anymore because
So just So it's very interesting technology though. It's crazy. And to your point also, you were saying in the chat and earlier, just like the speed of which this is happening is crazy. So I'm excited to see what 2023 will bring in that space.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, moving on. Let's see here, time check. All right, Igor, two-parter. So I have a data model that reads data from SQL views. The date table is also from SQL. I'd like to add column date with sales to the model, hiding future dates. Second part, my question is, would you choose DAX versus SQL for this or vice versa, and why?
Okay, so basically it's almost the same, right? Because if you put this information, which is like a flag in the date table that is true, false, depending on the fact that the date contains data that you actually, for which you actually have transactions or not, right? So basically it means that you run give me the maximum value of the date in the sales table, and then you mark as true all the dates less than or equal to that date. You can do this in two ways. You do this in a SQL view. Now, doing this in the SQL view technically has the same cost of running this in DAX, because you always have to refresh the entire date table. So if if the data source of your data table is your SQL Server database, for example, or a SQL view, it's fine. But you have to figure out what is the cost for adding that column. Because from the DAX, from a Power BI standpoint, it's just an additional flag, but maybe that instead of running in 2 seconds your SQL view, now it runs in 2 minutes, because it has to scan the entire fact table just to figure out what is the maximum value for the date. If you do this in a calculated column, because you import a data table from SQL view, so you could create a calculate column that does this in a data table in Power BI. It's true that calculate column is computed as an additional step when you process the data table, but the data table is usually small, and the calculate column can obtain this information in a very quick way from the fact table because it's already compressed in memory, and so it's just a scan of a single column. Is very, very fast. So in a model where the fact table is very large, probably there is an advantage in using the calculate column. But if for other reasons you have the information about the last date available in your SQL server, maybe in a way that is very easy to obtain, then doing this in the SQL view could be good as well.
So Kevin said, so it depends? I'm like, yes. It does depend. I'll throw it depends in there.
As always. As always.
So I also have the link in the chat to Matthew Roach's Maxim on data transformation as well. As far upstream as possible and as far downstream as necessary. Not saying that, to Marco's point, not saying don't do it in a calculated column, but understand where your data's at and the right place to do it. So cool. Awesome. Yep. Also, I will say there was a question in the chat about like, hey, no Hey Alex today, and I love Joe's response that Hey Alex has been replaced by ChatGPT. So true enough. Poor Alex. Alex has been on a much needed vacation. I think I've been watching his Twitter feed, and he just got back from Seattle, watching a lot of wrestling, and he's having fun. Yeah. So, all right. So data is king. Is there a feature that you wish was in Tabular Editor 3?
Okay, so if I have to choose a feature that I will add today, which is not necessarily in the top priority list for Daniel, is the ability to customize the diagram view.
Oh, yeah.
Adding nodes, colors, I'm not particularly satisfied from the diagram view I have in Power BI, and having one that is independent from Power BI, because when I create a model, I would like to have a diagram. So there is a feature for the diagram in Tabular Editor. I think it could be improved.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I will say though that I like that there's something there. So that was welcomed in Tabular Editor 3. But yeah, it could use some improvements.
Yep.
So all right, Aman, I know you commented on this one in the chat as well. I saw it, but I'll throw it up there for the gist of it. Is it true that Bravo was supposed to have a teal theme and that had to be scrubbed?
So teal is the new yellow, I said in the chat, but Bravo is red, so we have another color. We chose another color for Bravo. So.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so for those that aren't aware, if you're not aware, I don't know why you're not aware, but the accent color in Power BI Desktop and Power BI Service was changed to this teal color for accessibility reasons. So that's where that is coming from. All right, let's see here. Let's go with Sumar. Ciao, friends. Makes sense that DAX is an extensible language, allowing the community to create and make their own functions available. If yes, what would be the technical difficulties?
So let's see where we can start here. So technically, from a strict technical point of view, it's already possible to extend functions in DAX. If you look at the DAX code generated by Power BI, you will see that when you use, for example, a line chart, you will see functions to compute the minimum and maximum value for the chart, which actually use functions that are not exposed in DAX. You might think, okay, these functions are just hidden functions, but these functions are actually created as an extension of the DAX language, even though Microsoft never documented these things. But if you pick around, you look at the content of the directories, you will find that there are separate libraries with these functions. And technically, you could extend this function. You could add other functions, but it has never been documented and supported by Microsoft for external users. So technically, you cannot work it because it means that once you publish your model in Power BI service, it will not work. What we would like is the ability to just create a function in DAX using DAX. So for example, if I have a particular complex filter I use often in many calculus statements, I would like to write it as a function so that it's easier to reuse. I guarantee that we consistently provided the feedback about this feature to Microsoft for many years. And last time was a few months ago where they provided us a list of things that we would like to prioritize, and number one was DAX functions. However, I don't know if and when they will do that, but I believe it will be a very important feature to improve the usability of DAX. For example, imagine creating a library of financial functions beyond those that are already available, just to make an example.
Thomas said, "Viva la DAX variables." Christian made the comment, something like lambda statements in Excel. Marco.
Well, that is another thing, because lambda statement is something that you already have in a way, because basically you have iterators, and in the iterator you can already write your own expression. So we are talking about having a function that gets parameters as I want and returns either a scalar value or a table, and I can use everywhere. That's what we would like to have.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Rafael's got a question. I'm going to throw it up there, but we're not going to answer it right now. So if we use offset 0, whatever to reference current row, how will it affect the total? I'm going to defer just because we're going to talk about in the member section. We've got a member question on just the windowing stuff, so I'll defer it to that.
I can just say one thing about this question. These new functions provided by Microsoft at the end of the 2022 are very interesting. They can actually be used to simplify the code or to solve the problems. Don't think that they are they make your life easier, because actually they introduce new concepts. And we're working on articles, videos, and other stuff. We will see something in the next few weeks. It takes time, believe me. It's there are many things. So so there are scenarios where this is useful. These functions are useful. There are scenarios where they are not better than what we already have. It's just because something is new is not necessarily better, even though sometimes it's better because it simplifies the code that you have to write. And if you don't have extreme performance requirements, maybe that it's easier to use. So that could be.
All right. So we've got 1 minute left before we go to member chat. So let's see. I want to grab one. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to grab JP. Let's see what your thoughts are on the future, if Marco can tell the future. What lies ahead for DAX in 2023?
I would like to say, and I cannot. Something good is coming.
So right. I'll speculate, just because in previous years we've gotten, or we've been introduced to new DAX functions, that in 2023 there's likely to be new DAX functions.
I guess so too. Yeah.
It's safe to say.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So we are at the halfway mark. So Chatmaster C has indicated she is clearing the queue. So members, you can get your questions in now. The member-only chat means that we are going to go into where only members and moderators can participate in the chat. Everyone can still watch the stream and learn all the great stuff. But only members and moderators will be able to participate in the actual chat. If you want to learn more about being a member, check out the join button down below, and or The link I will put in the chat right now. Again, no commitment required. Just thank you if you do check it out and become a member. Super chats always take priority. So if you did have a burning question and you want to get to it, please do a super chat. If you do a super chat, please make sure you type in the question along with it, unless you just want to give a super chat for giving a super chat. With that, we will go into member only.
We are already in member only, right?
No, we are not yet. I've got to.
No? Okay.
I got to flip the switch. One second. Here we go. All right. Now we are in member only chat. So one of the benefit members, while you're getting your questions in, one of the members or one of the benefits of being a member at the visitor or producer tier is to pre-submit your questions. And we do have 2 pre-submitted questions. So we will go through those. First one up is from Eric Ramberg. I don't know why it looks like that. That was weird. All right. So can you, in plain English, suppose Swedish is not available, describe filter context and context switching?
Yep. So I think that by context switching we mean the context transition. Okay. So the context transition that I have seen actually, but I made some search because I didn't know the meaning of context switching, but I have seen that someone uses context switching instead of context transition. So basically context transition is the transformation of a raw context into filter context. So if you can switch to my computer, so I can show, try to draw what I mean with that.
Yep.
So let's say that you have, when you have you create like a visual in Power BI, right? And so when you have one cell here in this matrix correspond to a position in the filter context. What does it mean? Your DAX measure is evaluated for every cell. In every cell we do an evaluation. This this cell corresponds to a particular position in the filter context. So let's say that, for example, this is 2022, and this is, for example, Canada, right? So we have one filter that says Canada, one filter that says 2022. Now, in our measure, so let's say we have a measure that says SUMX, where for each row in the customer table, you do you evaluate, I don't know, the profit, right? What does it mean? Now we're introducing, so in this filter context, my formula iterates this table customer. For each row of customer, it does something. So at this point, imagine you have the customer table here. So this is customer. And let's say the customer has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. For each row, we evaluate the profit. Now, you know that, you should know that when you iterate a table, you have another concept that is the row context. And the row context is basically a row, the current row in a table in a particular iteration. So for example, let's say that we are in the first row. The first row is evaluating the customer key, the customer name, the customer company, and so on. Now, all the values of this row correspond to the current value of the column in the current row of the customer. Now, when we evaluate the profit for this customer, what happens? The measure profit will only use the filter context. The filter context is this, right? This is the filter context we're going to use. In order to apply the profit calculation for that specific customer, because again, remember, we are iterating with SUMX, we do the calculation of the profit customer by customer, and then we sum the result, which means, this means that this code that you see here, this row that you see here, is transferred here in the filter context. So now, the entire row with all the columns of the customer, but just one row for that specific customer, is part of the filter context. In this filter context, the profit is evaluated, and imagine you have a temporary column with the result of the profit for that customer. Second row, this is repeated, and now we no longer have this the first row, we have the second row in the filter context with the other two filters, and now we have the new value calculated for profit, and we continue and continue and continue again. Now, the operation that happens at this point, the transformation of the current row context into the filter context, is called context transition, and happens every time you have a measure reference invoked when you have a current row context, or when you have a calculate statement that is executed in presence of one or more row contexts. So this is the context transition that we were describing. And so this is the process that I try to display in a visual way. And I hope that I made a better job in a video. I don't know, Adam, if you have the video that you can provide.
Yeah, I already dropped the whiteboard video, as well as Alberto's understanding context transition as well. So great. Yeah, Chewy made the comment of you can tell everyone's paying attention when the chat goes silent. So
okay,
that was good. That was good. Yeah, and so Chris Jones, I think, also made the comment that context switching in programming does not equal context transition in DAX. I do agree they're not. That's not the same exact thing. In the context of the question, though, when we're talking about filter context and whatnot, like I think it was context transitioning that the question was referencing. So, yep. So cool. All right. So that was the first pre-submitted question. Second pre-submitted question from Mr. Thomas. So I have a question about the new DAX functions, index, offset, window. Are they game changers?
Yep.
I think so, but I'm not that deep into DAX to explain that. Listening to Jeffrey, it's the first functions that goes above row context.
I think that I will not try to describe what these functions do, because it will take an hour. Basically, we have function that can apply transformation to a filter or apply transformation to a table, extracting a subset of rows or applying a shift for a number of positions. What is important about these three functions is that they basically introduce in the DAX language the idea that you can rely on the order of a table. That's the fundamental difference. We didn't have this before. Now we have functions that said, okay, assuming we have a table and this table has this sort order, pay attention, the sort order is always part of the function call. So we never use a natural sort order. We always have a sort order defined by the parameters of these functions. But now we can make assumptions about the sort order. So in other words, it's like saying, let's get the list of customers and let's sort them by city and zip code, for example. And then give me the first customer for each zip code. Or let's sort the customer by customer, zip code, and a certain amount. Give me the first one for each zip code for each city. Something like that. So you can rely on the sort order. You can rely on the grouping. We call this partition by. And the operation that happens is optimized, because guess what? Because these functions know that the sort order and the grouping condition will be used as a way to select and filter the data, these functions have implementation that internally create indexes, temporary indexes, that can accelerate the result. However, pay attention, these functions always operate in the formula engine. Okay, so it makes sense to use these functions once you got an extraction of the data from your table. Maybe you got a few columns, maybe you got, a subset of data, thousands of rows. If you think that you get your 1 billion rows table and you apply a crazy sort order without a partition and without filtering anything, and you think that you will get a faster result, sorry, it will not work. Because these functions work only in the formula engine. So from a performance point of view, they are very good because they can do in the formula engine operation in a much quicker way, but They require the formal engine to work, and sometimes this is not the more efficient way to get the result that you need. However, having a new tool is always better than not having, so welcome to those functions. Just don't think that now we can do everything. For example, DAX does not have recursion, so this function cannot use recursion as well. So I'm sorry for you guys that hope to solve the problem of getting the amount, the stock, the quantity on stock in a warehouse, assuming that you can reset from the last negative value. I mean, there is a particular algorithm to compute something, applying a condition for each row. It will be slow the same, sorry.
Yep.
Because you need recursion to do that, and you don't have it, so.
Yep. Awesome. And there's going to be more content on this. I know, Marco, you're planning on getting some content out about it. And we'll see.
We hopefully the first article should be ready by the end of the month.
Yeah.
And
nice.
There is a lot of content we will produce about that. So
yeah,
don't worry.
Takes a little time to investigate, and look at the numbers try different.
The functions
scenarios.
are still in preview, by the way, so don't rely too much. They could change. Some detail could change. Some improvement could be made. They are not. It's not the finished product yet.
Yeah. Yep. All right. All right. Moving to the queue. So those were all the. Chewy, where are the gifs for mind blowing in the chat? It'd be good if you could actually do those in the chat. Although some people might argue that that's not good. Let's see. Oh, Michael coming in. Okay, need a free day next month to read and a week to understand. Yes, coming in a member for 30 months. Thank you, Michael. Also, I didn't mention John Kursky. Thank you for becoming a member. Very much appreciated. Welcome, welcome. All right, going to the chat. Mr. Benny. Benny, hope you're doing good. If you'd be given the mandate to start from scratch on DAX and the Vertipack engine, what would you do differently? Time, resources, knowledge can be taken out of the equation.
It's a difficult question because it's always easy to fix, to find the problems after. I mean, we worked with DAX since 2010, so do the math. It's many years. So it's easy now to say what was possible to be improved in advance, right? And something has been done, but always you always have now the constraint of the compatibility. So whatever good idea you might have now, you always have to think about should we, throw out everything or not. Of course, I can say that I would like to have functions. I would like to have. I would have liked to have calculation groups way before we had. I would like to have default member in calculation groups. Vertipack can be improved. Well, yes, but actually Vertipack is very good, and of course there is something. There is always something to improve. For example, I would like to have something that is not strictly Vertipack, which is the ability to have aggregations Vertipack on Vertipack instead of having aggregation Vertipack over direct query. Having aggregation Vertipack over Vertipack and something that would be useful in my opinion for big models. But of course, if we think about the larger number of users, what is missing today in DAX and something that I would have made different since day one is the way it's not just DAX, it's the model. I would have kept in the model the idea that a column can have a sort by column intrinsically defined, like you have the key and the value in the multidimensional model. That's a feature that I would have kept in the model since day one, because I would have forced this way all the clients to support this feature, and I would have avoided problems that we face today in translations, in functions that don't behave the right way when you have a sort order, in the ambiguity when you have to remove a filter from a column but you have a sort by another column. All these problems would never have existed. And we knew that because we were sensitive, not being from the United States, we raised the flag about the translation since day zero. But the constraint at the time was now we have to keep it simple, and we will modify this if needed later. And of course, now it's too late because now we have the problem of the compatibility. So whatever change you make, it's more expensive. But yeah, probably that and the idea that we don't have in the model any definition, and in the DAX language, we don't have a definition of the hierarchy. So if I have to create the hierarchical calculation over a table, is a total nightmare. And we don't have any support in DAX because we don't have any support from the model. Actually, the model has the concept of hierarchy, but this concept is not translated into any construct in DAX. And probably this is something that creates a limitation for a number of applications, especially in the financial sector for profit and loss statements, balance of classification, and so on. But this could be fixed, whereas the problem of we can always add something about hierarchies later. I don't see how the problem of the lack of the, key and value attribute can be fixed for compatibility reasons.
Awesome. And to Kevin's point earlier, I will definitely throw in it depends. So we'll throw that in the jar. So great answer. Yeah, I agree. Like the key value pairs, the translation pieces, the hierarchy pieces, those are all things that come up in conversations with customers all the time. So, yep. All right. Anas Benz, thank you for becoming a member. Very much appreciated. Happy New Year to you. All right. Going back to the queue. We'll throw this out. Joe. Is it better to build a KPI in Tom or build the conditional formatting?
Ooh. Tough question. So,
it depends.
I don't know. If you use the conditional formatting, you create something that works in that specific report. If you create a KPI in Tom, you create, let's say, a business rule that can be consumed in any Power BI and Excel report. Now, unfortunately, when you use the KPI in the Tom model, what you obtain as a result in Excel and Power BI is slightly different. I remember I wrote an article maybe 2 or 3 years ago describing which icons you can use because they provide the same visualization in the two tools. And so there are KPIs as a graphical visualization. There are KPIs that have different representations between Excel and Power BI. So while potentially it's better to use the KPI in Tom, at the same time you have the restriction that you have to only use a subset of the available icons if you want to actually be compatible with both clients. And of course, you don't have the same flexibility you have with the conditional formatting in the report, because the conditional formatting can have other features that you don't have in Tom. So unfortunately, they are not actually the same. So yeah, you have to evaluate what you want to do and how important it is to support the same KPI in different clients, or in different reports, because the conditional formatting has to be copied and pasted in other reports if you want to use it. So,
yep. And to Bob Eater's question, Tom stands for Tabular Object Model. Thank you for calling that out. So.
Yep.
Basically, do we create it in the model directly, or do we do it from a client perspective? So, all right, cool. All right, Pa Beater. Speaking of Pa Beater, next question up. Will 2023 bring time intelligence to Power BI? Well, so I think he actually means time intelligence, not what we call time intelligence inside of DAX today. So, like being able to work with time instead of just dates.
I mean, I think I don't break any NDA saying that I never seen anyone raising this as a priority in any meeting I attended. I mean, saying that I didn't see anything is not breaking any NDA, right? So I never seen.
I would
this
comment the same. Like this just doesn't come up when it comes to priorities. Talking with, large customers, talking to just customers in general. When I go to conferences, like this is not. Bob Eater, you're like one of the very few that actually bring this up. I know you've said it multiple times.
Yep. That said, I mean, I would like to know which kind of operation, because technically you can easily create that timetable, hour, minutes, because it has to be as smaller as possible for performance reasons. It is probably not a good idea to create a standard one, because you probably want to keep it at the hour or the 15 minutes, not even at a minute if you don't need it. And which operation you want to do. I mean, I understand you want to do the previous year comparison or a previous month comparison, but with the time, usually you just want to group by and you don't need a calculation over time. But of course, if there is something that we didn't consider, I would like to know.
So in context, Bob Peters mentioned this before. So it's he's coming from the concept of just IoT devices and things like that. So, and like I get you're going to work with that when you're actually streaming the data, but when we're looking at, I guess when you're looking at device, or I've seen this in oil and gas too with like well operations, and you're looking at time slices and want to compare those.
But you probably, I'm not sure. So here there are two considerations. One is that if you have real-time data, I'm not sure you want to work with Power BI.
Yep.
When I say real-time, I mean real time.
Yep.
Okay. Something below the second, something that you have many events in a second, right? If you say, oh, I want to have the data up to, the 1 minute ago, 2 minutes ago, this is what we call near real time, but it's not even close to real time. And so if you have near real time requirements, usually the second is not a problem. So if you have the problem of the second and you enter into the real time problem, there are features in Power BI to manage streaming and so on, but the limitation of that approach, you don't see the history. So you see the last fraction of the data. So if you really need to do analysis over a large set of data, including that granularity, chances are that you have to prepare the data, you have to work on the data, you have to transform the data some way. At that point, you just create your timetable with the aggregation that you need.
Yep.
But looking at the difference in seconds between events in second, we enter into an era where DAX is not very powerful. DAX is not very powerful if you want to retrieve the, in a window, for example, we're talking about windows. Let's say that you say, for this event, give me the list of the events in the last 2 seconds. And there could be 10,000 events. And you have billions of rows, and you have just 3 days of data. Maybe you don't want to use DAX for that, because the performance would be horrible. So, so that's that's the reality of it. So keep fighting the good fight, Bob Eater. All right, OniJS 15. Let's see here. When visual calculations come out, am I going to have to relearn DAX? Is the code we write today going to become obsolete? I mean, I cannot answer.
I mean, look, some of the concepts will still
if and when, let's say, if and when, we don't know, right? We don't know. So if and when visual calculation come out, if hypothetically, so let's avoid problems. So if hypothetically one day Microsoft releases some feature to create visual calculation. And
can you explain what a visual? So Chris is asking. I don't even know what a visual calculation is.
Okay, so in 2020 we wrote an article. So I don't know if you can find it.
I'll look for it while you talk.
Where we proposed visual calculation for Power BI, for DAX actually. So the idea is that if I have a visualization and I just want to sum the visible rows of the table I have in the visual without having to modify the measures in the report and without entering into the details of the model. I just want to say, I want to sum these numbers, for example, something like that, ideally. Well, the idea is to make it easier to do that by providing a sort of, feature or whatever that allows you to write a code without knowing the model, but only knowing the visual representation. So I want to sum the rows that I have in the visual, something like that. If and when this feature is made, what happens? Well, I think nothing happens because it will be a calculation that works only for that visual, and as such, it cannot be reused in other reports or in other visuals of the same report, because by definition, we are doing something that works only in that visual. So how can you reuse it? So I think that we are not gonna, it's if you see a value in having a measure in a model, that value will continue to exist and you will continue to need exactly the same skills that you have now.
Yep. All right. All right. So Toma, thank you for the super chat. Toma said, could you please remind Patrick that we haven't forgotten, about his upcoming video on field parameters in paginated reports. And I will relay the message, and yes, yep. I will remind him. I will also say, as a part of that is we're actually waiting on some capabilities for the format table, if they ever come out. I told him it would be more useful for like the format table capability once that allows actual like filtering parameter through the paginated visual. Like, to me, that's more interesting. So that's part of why we've been holding off on that. All right, Chris Jones coming in. This is an interesting question. Marco's journey, pivoting from pure technical stuff to more business marketing. I would say Marco still does a lot of technical stuff. What's that journey been like for you?
Do we have another hour or no?
We got 3 minutes. Go.
So to make a very long story short, I actually always been in the middle, even though I like the technical side more, but for a number of reasons, I almost always had to deal with the business side of the things. So starting from the very basic stuff like what is a how do you call in English? I don't remember, but the underlying the ledger table, okay, the ledger table and profit and loss statement and a balance. So the technical stuff from a accounting point of view, which was part of it's a long story, but starting from there and for other reasons in my career, I always been in the middle. But of course, with a trend, if I had to choose between, I have to do accounting, I have to write C# code, so let's take DAX out of the question, I always choose the C#. But sometimes duty is do accounting. So.
Yeah, there's I'm trying to find, there was a video I watched yesterday, and I actually sent this out to internally the team I work with at Microsoft, because I thought it was interesting. So I'll put this. So it's how I failed in 2022. So it's coming more from like a YouTube content creator / entrepreneur, like talking about business. And one of the things he talked about was that struggle of, he finally realized that he didn't want to be like the large business manager, like he liked doing the things and making content and things. So I'm hearing similar things from your end of like, yes, the business thing is there, I have to do it, but I like the technical things. I like getting my hands on the technology.
Yeah. Okay, let me amend my answer.
Okay.
Having Okay, having the ability to talk with people in the business is very powerful, especially for people in the BI.
Yeah.
Believe me, what made the difference when I worked on business intelligence problems, what made the real difference was not my technical skill, was the ability to be the only person that could talk at the same time.
Yeah.
I was able to talk with the technical people, very geek people, and to the CFO, because I was able to talk their language. This is fundamental.
Yes.
This is fundamental, and this gives you freedom.
Yes.
If you are able to manage this conversation, you obtain more power, which correspond to more freedom in your choices, including the technical choices. When I am upset with people that say, oh, they told me that I have to use this technology, I always say, why you didn't explain why this was not possible? Oh, because they didn't understand. And I would say, look, if I was there, I would have did this. You would try to convince them that the technology X was better than Y. You should have simply translated the conversation into money, into the US dollar or euros or whatever, saying, look, in 2 years, this is going to be costing this amount of money, and this other amount of money. Believe me, they will understand. They always understand this simple concept, because this is their language. You have to translate their language in their language.
Yeah, no, I absolutely
So for
agree.
this, I'm saying, when I say that I prefer the technical side, at the same time, I don't want to lose the ability.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that either. So I
business.
absolutely 100% agree. Understanding the business side of things and how to I will say context transition between technical and business is good, and it absolutely is a superpower. And it gives you that ability to make progress on doing things that have impact on the technical side, but also where it brings meaning to the business and being able to explain that, position it, influence, all of those things. So that's good. Correct. But I think so some of the question, I guess the way I took it was more about like actually running a business and the part of running an actual like SQLBI and a business aspect of it. Like those things, they're not sexy. They're things we have to do, or like as a business owner, like you have to do those things. I don't know that anyone necessarily enjoys some of those aspects of it, the paperwork, the accounting, all of that junk. Like it's not, you have to do it. So,
well,
or you do. Okay.
I get the point, but at the same time, if you, okay, let me try to, okay, I have an idea that it should not be so easy to create a company. Let me explain. You have to know accounting. It's incorrect to start a company relying on someone else to look at the books, at the accounting. You have to know that.
Yes.
Okay, it's like being able to read. It's like it's a fundamental skill you need to run a business. Which means that once you know what is the meaning of those numbers, you can also rely on other people to do the manual work. But you always have to be able to be in charge of that. You always have to be able to read that number without relying on someone else, because otherwise you are not able to make a decision.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
this is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
doesn't necessarily mean you enjoy it though.
No, I don't enjoy, but at the same time, knowing that allows me to make decision.
Yes.
For example, I am able to discuss with the CPA, with the accountant, when they ask unreasonable requests.
Yeah.
Because most of the times they do that because they want to cover their beep. Okay, this is what what they do. But at the end of the day, you are responsible of the company. So ultimately, thank you. So ultimately, you have to make the decision. So if a request for compliance is over expensive for the size of your company, you should be able to discuss that, right?
Yeah.
This is just a small example. But what I'm trying to say is that by doing that, I am able to automate processes the right way. For example, talking about SQLBI, our mantra is if we do the same things manually for 5 times, we start a process to create a way to automate it every single time, constantly for, during years. This means that the the manual stuff don't have to be done. So they run by themselves. And this is important. But if you don't know, if you rely on the counter say that, the program does this, I have no idea how to interact with those things, I don't know, I want to stay away from that, okay, that's fine, but you limit the ability to automate the processes.
Yep. Great discussion. I love it. All right, we are over time. I will, so Kevin did bring up one thing. Speaking of money, what was the donation total for the end of the year? So we did It Depends. So every time we do It Depends, we're putting $1 in the jar for donation for charity. And so Kevin was kind enough to actually total that up for us. And I've loved Kevin keeping track of all of that. It's been very much appreciated. So he said that he had communicated with me that the community donations totaled up to $635 during the stream we did on December 17th. And then the It Depends jar, I think it was over $200. I want to say it was like $221 US dollars. So everything was there. And then we actually threw in $1,000 total. So the total donation was $1,635.60 US.
Right.
So.
Right.
Cool. All right, Marco, thank you so much for being on the stream and starting off the live streams for Guy in a Cube for 2023. Always a pleasure to chat with you, and
it's always a pleasure to be here, because when I'm usually in this office on the other side on my computer to working on a Saturday, sometime doing accounting. Saturday is the day for the accounting, or other paperwork or something like that. At the time I say, okay, let's let's attend the chat. So yeah.
Yep, always love having you on, and we'll definitely have you on again. And so with that, have a great rest of your weekend. Chat, have an awesome weekend as well, and a good next week going into 2023. All right, thanks everyone.
You too. Thank you very much.
We'll see you. Bye.
And enjoy DAX, as always say.
Yes.
And have a nice weekend.
Yep.
Bye bye.